Okay. So in the various theaters of operations that we have been carrying out operations, like you're aware, essentially internal security operations, meaning that the adversary is within. So because of the nature of these operations and the nature of the adversary, the importance of having a very robust, very objective and diligent reportage by the media cannot be overemphasized. So again, I want to thank you very much for playing this role so far very diligently, very effectively. I would like to start by mentioning that the Nigerian Air Force just turned 61. And we have lined up a series of very formidable activities to commemorate this milestone. A lot of activities regarding civil-military relations, aerial fly past, aerial display, research and development competitions, and many other activities that are lined up to commemorate this important milestone. As a service, I would say that we have every reason to be proud, to be thankful to God, and to be happy and to celebrate, looking at where we are coming from. When the Air Force was established in 1964 by an act of parliament, and we started as a very small arm of the armed forces, a very tactical Air Force that was capable of very limited activities, specifically tactical troop transport, within the theaters of operation, and going through a lot of transformation to where we are today, to an Air Force that is capable of carrying out operations with strategic effects far beyond even the borders of Nigeria, and also having a lot of additional capabilities in terms of assets, weapon systems, skills, and experience. So we have every reason to be very proud of our achievements. Also, we are now the third largest Air Force on the African continent. And we're on our way to probably becoming the second, and maybe even the first eventually, due to our size, our capabilities, and the array of assets that we have in our inventory. So I think the Nigerian Air Force deserves a lot of applause and recognition for having attained this feat. One of the activities that we're also carrying out to mark the 61st anniversary is the hosting of the Association of African Air Chiefs Forum, which is the 4th edition. Last year, we were also able to host that. It's a very important forum where chiefs of the air staff of African countries come together to discuss, look at the security situation in the whole of the African continent, leverage each other's strengths, and see how we can also alleviate each other's weaknesses, and see how we can really cooperate across borders to address some of the common challenges that are plaguing the continent as a whole. So it's a very important forum for us, and by virtue of our position as the giant of Africa, it's also very important that we are playing leadership role in this forum. And that is why we have been hosting this forum, and it's also it's coinciding with the 61st anniversary celebration of the Nigerian Air Force. Now, in terms of our air operations to curtail our various security challenges across the country, within the past 1 year, between sometime in 2023, towards the end of 2023 and 2024, the Nigerian Air Force flew about 10,500 hours in close to 7,000 sorties, which was as a result of about 6,000 missions in the various theaters of operations, of course, including armed recce, air interdiction, intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance, close air support, tactical airlift, the complete gamut of air operations in the various theaters. Now, all these missions contributed decisively to attainment of operational objectives and improvement of our national security in the various theaters of operations, especially following our three-pronged approach, which has to do with leadership decapitation, logistics strangulation, and of course, denial of the adversary, the use of force enablers in the various theaters. Using this three-pronged approach, we have made very significant progress. A lot of the terrorist leadership and their followers have been eliminated. I don't want to give you numbers because a lot of numbers have been bandied, but we have very credible statistics which have been verified through our ISR and also human intelligence in the various theaters. But suffice it to say that a very large number of terrorist leadership as well as their followers in all the theaters have been neutralized. A lot of also logistics structures, including vehicles, motorcycles, storage areas, have also been destroyed. Similarly, within that period of 1 year, a lot of terrorists and their families are surrendering, in particularly the Northeast and the Northwest. So far, in the past 1 year, we have about 121,000, and the numbers are increasing daily. So we're making a lot of progress as far as the conduct of our operations are concerned in the various theaters of operations. In the South-South, sometime in 2023, it was reported that Nigeria lost about $23 billion to oil theft. Following that, sometime in 2023, we escalated our operations, particularly with the projection of air power in that particular theater. And towards the end of 2023 and to mid-2024, our daily production increased by 13% from what we were having at about 1.5 million barrels per day. We got to about 1.8 million barrels per day at some point. And the terminal factor recently reported through all the pipelines has been 90% and above, meaning that all the lines are green. So also in that theater, talking about improving or curtailing the economic sabotage and improving our revenue from oil, there is a lot of improvement. It's a work in progress. The target is to, of course, attain our peak quota of production, which is above 2 million barrels per day. So we're working at that, and hopefully we'll be able to attain that very soon. Now, we want to talk about other activities briefly, going on within the Nigerian Air Force. So on assumption of office as the 22nd Chief of Air Staff, I had to take a stock of where we were coming from as an Air Force, where we were at that point, and determine where we wanted to go as an Air Force and what we needed to do to get to where we wanted to go. As a result of that, I carried out a very detailed environmental scan, not looking at only operations, but also other areas. In fact, a complete scan of all the aspects of Air Force life: logistics, aircraft maintenance, administration, civil military relations, operations, of course, and every other thing. Now, after carrying out this environmental scan, we discovered some gaps in our force structure and establishment that we needed to fill. We also discovered some deficiencies in terms of capabilities that we needed to have so that we can be more efficient and optimal as an Air Force, particularly with regard to the security situation, and also looking forward potentially the challenges that we're likely to be facing maybe in the next decade or two. Now, having done this full environmental scan, I promulgated my command philosophy for the Nigerian Air Force, which is supposed to serve as a guide to the Nigerian Air Force as to where we want to be as an Air Force. My command philosophy is to transform the Nigerian Air Force into an agile and resilient force that effectively meets the air power demands of national security in all operational environments. Now, to give impetus to the attainment of this command philosophy, I also promulgated 5 key enablers these focal areas so that they are not, our activities plans and what we do are not limited to these focal areas, but these areas are supposed to serve as guides or focal points so that we don't dissipate time and resources without a focus. So these areas that are supposed to serve as focal points, which I called my key enablers to successfully achieving the command philosophy, include one, optimizing force structure and establishment. I told you about some of the gaps we saw in terms of force structure and establishment for enhanced operational effectiveness. The second key enabler, deliberate training and mission-oriented force development, while the third had to do with proactive logistics support and a strong maintenance culture. The fourth key enabler was a focus and prioritization of research and development, leveraging technology, lessons learned, as well as strategic partnerships. And the last but not the least of the key enablers is ensuring a highly motivated force through enhancement of welfare and infrastructural renewal. So I will just talk briefly on some of the things we are doing in this, along the lines of these key enablers, just for ease of understanding, so that we can have some perspective as to what has been going on in the past 1 year within the Nigerian Air Force. So starting with the first key enabler of optimizing force structure and establishment for enhanced operational effectiveness, I said we discovered some gaps in terms of our establishments during the environmental scan. Now, one of the things that we saw that was very, very critical to the success of or optimization of our operations was the criticality of intelligence, especially in the light of the kinds of operations that we are conducting. So before now, because we were built, trained as a conventional Air Force, but now here we were fighting a very unconventional war, or having ourselves to operate in a very unconventional environment. So therefore, we need to do a lot of redefinition and reassignment. So one of the gaps we saw was that our intelligence gathering capabilities was not up to scratch, and intelligence and the operations we are conducting are highly, highly intelligence driven. So we had to do a lot of investments as far as our intelligence assets were concerned, both in terms of human capacity and in terms of equipment. Now, as a result of this, we got into an inventory, additional 4 airplanes dedicated to ISR. That is the DA-62 airplanes, which came into inventory towards the end of 2023 and then beginning of 2024. So those have significantly increased or improved our ISR capabilities. There are more assets coming. Also, our data analysis cells in the various theaters of operations who were supposed to gather the data, infuse them, and then turn them into actionable intelligence. We did a lot of investments in terms of training, in terms of equipment, that is software, so that at the end of the day, the intelligence coming out of those data cells was also much better. We have also invested in training of our personnel in terms of data analytics, because that is the future. The more we have data and we're able to analyze it, the more effective we're going to be able to carry out our operations through better decision making because of the data and information that you have available. Similarly, or additionally, talking about force structure, optimizing our force structure, we are lucky to also benefit from what I would call a fleet modernization effort by the federal government to make us much more relevant to the kind of modern operations that we're having, because a lot of our assets were procured in the 70s and maybe early 80s. So of course, they are legacy systems. They are very, very incapable of carrying out the kinds of operations based on the equipment on board and their capabilities. So, but I'm glad to mention that the federal government has intervened. A lot of assets have been procured for the Nigerian Air Force. So far, in the past 1 year or so, we have received 15 brand new airplanes, including the 4 DA-62 I talked about. There are 60 129 attack helicopters from Turkey, which are actually the ones that turned the tide in the South-South in the fight against oil theft. And also, we have the King Air 360, which also does a bit of ISR, as well as the Agusta 109 tracker. So a total of 15, but that's just, part of the news. We have confirmed orders for additional 49 airplanes are supposed to come into the inventory of the Nigerian Air Force in the next 1 to 1.5 years, because the airplanes are not what you can just buy off the shelves. You have to order, specify, they build them gradually, and even for maintenance and sustenance purposes, you don't want to have all their fleet coming into the inventory at the same time. So therefore, the balance 49 airplanes are coming into the system in the next 1 to 1.5 years, and this include additional 10 Agusta 109 trackers, which we already have 2. These are light attack helicopters. They are not fully combat helicopters, but you can do light attacks with them. And those are the helicopters that are currently curtailing some of the challenges we have in the southeast. They are very suited for that operation. We also have the M346 fighter ground attack aircraft. We are having 24 of that coming into the inventory, starting maybe in the next 3 months. We'll have the initial batch coming into the system. These are very modern fighter ground attack aircraft that are very suited with a lot of precision strike capability and modern avionics. So they're able to do a lot more than what the airplane we have in the inventory that is performing that same role currently is doing, which is the Alpha Jet, which is a legacy airplane that is about 50 years old in the inventory. So those airplanes will replace that, and they will very significantly improve our capacity as far as that air power role is concerned. We also have 3 CASA 295 airplanes, which are light transport and liaison and tactical lift aircraft that are coming in. And then we have the almighty EH-1 Zulu Cobra helicopters. These are fully dedicated attack helicopters, which are also very, very suited to the kinds of operations we are doing. So coming from the United States of America. It's a complete package with training, weapon systems, ground support equipment, total package. So with all this, and all these airplanes are coming with very modern systems, precision strike capabilities, a lot of capabilities for ISR, and a lot of other systems that will really enable us to operate optimally and address not only the current challenges we're having, but even challenges that we can foresee maybe in the next decade or 2. Still regarding our fleet, we were also just as a stopgap measure, because the Alpha Jet has done very well and it's still what we have. And before we optimize the use of the M346 coming, we'll still have to operate the Alpha Jet for some time. So we bought or procured 9 pre-owned aircraft, Alpha Jet, from the French Air Force. They are still in fairly good condition, and they are what we are using to sustain some of the theaters currently. We have also invested very significantly in some of the airplanes that have been in the system but have not been operable for quite some time. So our ATR-42 airplanes, our Mi-35s, Mi-171, as a matter of fact, we just deployed the Mi-171, which is also a very formidable helicopter, capable of night operations and ground attack, including cannons, bombs, and rockets. Very formidable, actually, and we just deployed it to the northeast about a week ago. The Mi-135 is also on its way. All these airplanes have been in the system for quite some time for reasons of serviceability, spares, and training. We couldn't fly them, but they're all back, coming back gradually. The same thing with the Bell 412s, as well as the Super Puma helicopter. They are all coming back into the inventory. When we came, part of the decision we took was that every airplane in the Nigerian Air Force that is operable will be returned back to serviceability status, and I think we have achieved up to 90% of that target as a date. So still in terms of optimizing our force structure, we realize that there are a lot of limitations in terms of our airfield infrastructure. So quite a few of our airfields where we operate from did not have facilities, for example, instrument landing systems, runway lights, and even sufficient hangarage. And that limited what we could do. It means we can't operate at night, and of course we know the adversaries are much more active at night. So we had to do a lot of investments to upgrade a lot of our airfield infrastructure with instrument landing systems, with runway lights, hangars, expansion of aprons, and a whole lot of gamut of activities around the airfields. Some of these airfields include Enugu, Port Harcourt, Makurdi, Kaduna, Bauchi, Katsina. All these are airfields where we carry out, we launch our operations in the various theaters, and they have all been significantly upgraded or are currently undergoing a lot of upgrade. Still looking at our force structure, because we had to do a lot of that, you need to have a very good structure for you that will be the foundation for every other thing that you do. If you don't have a good structure, then every other thing it's not likely to be able to stand the test of time. So still talking about force structure, we had to establish a few institutions and offices also to complement or to optimize our structure to be able to further enhance our capacity for air operations. The issues we have had with collateral damage, with civilian harm, and the effect that it has had in terms of our operations. Because, of course, like I said, the adversary is within. A lot of times you have to, and that's why also it's very highly intelligence driven. I also need a lot of precision. Otherwise, every day you go out there, you're going to have civilians who are not supposed to be harmed, getting harmed. So we had to establish a very robust organization of branch status that we call Civil Military Relations Branch, that will coordinate a lot of our activities in terms of civil military relations, particularly with a focus on civilian harm mitigation. Today, during the seminar that is going on downstairs, we unveiled a policy document on our civilian harm mitigation action and response plan. It's a very important document that will guide our activities forward, not only to minimize civilian harm in our operations, but also in case it does happen, all the actions that we'll go through to alleviate it, and then to make sure that it doesn't happen in future. We also established the Transformation and Innovation Branch to take care of our research and development and to encourage other innovative activities. Also, we established the Directorate of Peace Support Operations, Directorate of Land Administration, Directorate of Airworthiness and Certification, which is responsible or will be responsible for certifying our airplanes, our personnel in terms of their qualification, and really making sure that standards are met and maintained in terms of carrying out our both flying and maintenance activities. We also established the Directorate of Cyber Warfare, which, of course, in the light of the technology and the threats in the cyber domain, we need to have an establishment that also will look at that and develop a lot of capacity in that particular sphere. We also established the Air Power Center of Excellence, which will combine the Air Warfare Center that is currently in Makurdi, the Air Warfare Doctrine Center also, which is here in Abuja, the Institute of Air Power Studies, and then the Air Ground Integration School. Now, all these things, all these institutes that are currently on their own and probably not operating optimally, we established the Air Power center of excellence, so that all these schools come into one environment, and so they can complement each other in terms of manpower, in terms of resources, and generally synergize and optimize whatever is coming out of any of those schools. Also established the Air Force College of Logistics to take care of all our logistics needs. And we did a lot of work to ensure that we are not duplicating, because there is an Army College of Logistics, there are so many other logistics institutes or civilian schools where you can learn about logistics courses, and we do not want to just duplicate or waste our resources while we can obtain what we wanted to do in other places. But what we realized after a very detailed study is that our own challenges, as far as that is concerned, cannot be sorted or are not available in all these other institutions. So we needed to have something very specialized that would take care of our own needs based on our own peculiar activities and needs. So, and that was why we established that. So that has also come on board to address some of the challenges we have in Naira in terms of manpower, structures, and the like. Now, the second key enabler is deliberate training and mission-oriented force development. So here, briefly, what we saw from the environmental scan is that a lot of individuals coming out of training from our training institutions, and we have quite a number, we are not meeting the requirements in the field. Like I said earlier, a lot of them were established 20 years ago, 15 years ago, and the syllabi that were applicable and appropriate at that point in time are no longer appropriate. So when these individuals come out, they are not useful to us in the field. So we had to overhaul all the syllabi of our training institutions to make sure that the courses or the products coming out of those institutions are relevant to what is required in the field. Now, we also, in the past, we also did a lot of training outside the country because, of course, the Air Force is very technical, and a lot of the skills or skill sets required to operate, maintain airplanes, particularly, and other weapon systems are not available here. So we procured a lot of training outside the country, but we probably did it in a haphazard way because we found that we had trained over so many years and so many people, but we still had a lot of gaps. So probably we were training without really identifying the exact gaps in terms of skills, knowledge, experience, and so we decided to re-strategize. And now we procure training only when we have specific gaps in terms of skill, knowledge, or experience. And we also make sure that the individuals we send merit it, so that we are getting the best investments, the best outcome of our investments eventually when they come back, so that it's individuals that have the capacity to absorb this training and also come back and train others instead of people that will be struggling. So we're ensuring that, and we're beginning to see a lot of positive outcome through this policy. I will speak briefly now on the third key enabler, which has to do with proactive logistics support and a strong maintenance culture. Of course, we said our command philosophy is to transform the Nigerian Air Force into an agile and resilient force that effectively meets the air power demands of national security in all operational environments. Now, for us to be agile and resilient as an Air Force, we must be flying, of course, aircraft. And for us to have aircraft to fly, we must have a very robust and proactive maintenance culture. And so in the past, what affected our serviceability sometimes very negatively was the fact that we were reactive in carrying out our maintenance. So we changed to a proactive maintenance culture. Simply, it just means we're able to anticipate a maintenance activity, whether it's scheduled or unscheduled, and plan for it months ahead of time, so that when it comes, we're ready for it, and then the airplane or system is grounded for the minimum amount of time, and it's back to serviceability status. We have started doing this gradually. Now we do our predictions in 3 to 6 months period because of limited data that is available. That has improved our serviceability rates from about 55 to 60% we used to have to about 75% currently. So we are seeing the success of that. The target is to have over 90% serviceability of all operable systems in the Nigerian Air Force. But that's for us to be able to apply a predictive maintenance to that level. We need to have data, and that data will only be obtained over time. So we can only begin to achieve that level maybe in another 5 years' time or more, when we have very reliable data that we can use to predict maintenance. One feat that we're able to achieve as far as maintenance is concerned that is worth mentioning here too, you may have seen it also in the news, is that we got an airplane from the, because we did something again. You know, there are a lot of government agencies, ministries, agencies and departments that have airplanes which are procured with public funds, but which have been wasted. Or a lot of them are just sitting down, not really doing what they were procured to do. So we looked around, and that was part of our scan too. We wanted to optimize government's resources. So instead of going, for example, to say we need this, if it was available in one ministry or department and they were not using it and it was being wasted, we went to government and said we could take over this and then we could make it serviceable. And one of such airplanes, we took quite a few, you know, from NEMA, from Ministry of the defunct Ministry of Power, and some others. And this particular airplane from defunct Ministry of, I think, Power and Steel had been on ground for over 23 years. We took this airplane. Of course, we have been operating that type for quite some time, so I'm quite familiar with its operational and maintenance activities. But within the period of 6 months, we were able to bring that airplane back to flying status. It's currently flying with the Nigerian Air Force. I think that is a very significant feat. We did this completely locally with our engineers. Something that ordinarily we'll have had to call foreigners and probably spent a very huge amount of foreign resources, foreign exchange to get that done. But we were able to achieve it here. We're also able to achieve for the first time a 4,800 hours level inspection, which is depot level inspection. We did not have the capacity to do that, or so we operated. But we were able to do that in the past 1 year also. This is also a very significant achievement. Saves the government a lot of resources, and also it indicates that we have come of age and we have been able to develop to some certain level as far as our maintenance activities are concerned. That is also a very important milestone, I think, that we have been able to achieve as far as maintenance is concerned. Now, one other thing I will mention here that we have done quite a bit, you know, a lot of initiatives that we have put in place and which are paying dividends, is in the area of safety. We're all aware that we have had a fair share of incidents and accidents. In 2023 alone, we had, I think, 5 mishaps that resulted to complete destruction of the airplanes, and so in some cases, loss of lives. Before then, we also had, by global standards, we had a fairly high rate of incidents and accidents. So we had to look at that because, again, for us to be agile and resilient and effective as an Air Force, we must, or we can't afford to be having our airplanes, with incidents or crashing. So we had to look at the aspects of safety, and we implemented quite a few initiatives, and I'm very happy and proud to announce that probably in a very long time, probably a couple of decades, we have experienced about 1.5 years now without any fatal accidents involving Nigerian Air Force aircraft. So what we did was to try to institutionalize what we call a safety culture. By this, it's trying to make sure that everybody imbibes the culture and awareness of safety and the issues regarding safety, both operationally, domestically, and otherwise, even including personal safety. So in all our training institutions now, we have an Institute of Safety where we train people, but that trains a limited number of people, and then we wanted a safety culture that is imbibed by every personnel in the Air Force, whether you are in operations or maintenance or not. If you are in finance or administration, you must be conscious of safety. And if we all had that, and we're all watching out for the issues, because the fact is that every accident or incident is preventable if only we can see the chain that is building up to that accident and try to break that chain. And it's always a chain of events. It's never a single incident, and it's never an act of God. So the issue is to make sure that everybody has the awareness, has the consciousness, and is watching out for those factors and that chain, and therefore to break it. So we started educating every officer and airman in the Nigerian Air Force in all our institutes. Whether you go to a finance school or administration training or logistics, you'll still be exposed to some aspect of safety. And we are seeing that already paying dividends because the rates of accidents and incidents, not only operationally, but even otherwise, has significantly reduced. What we are also trying to achieve, which is achievable with a lot of effort, is to have a zero accident and incident environment. It's quite difficult, but that's the target we're giving ourselves. And so far, we're on the right track to achieving it. We have also reviewed our safety policy as a document. We have also, again, for the first time, institutionalized what we call our safety management system. And we have also embedded the whole of that into a manual that is easy for every individual, every personnel to go through and understand. Now, the next key enabler is leverage prioritization of research and development. Now, we know that generally our level of technological advancement or prowess is a bit low, and aviation generally, or let me say the Air Force in this case, is very highly technical. So for our training, spare parts, consumables, the assets themselves, everything, we do not produce here. We have to look for it from foreign vendors. This is very expensive in terms of foreign exchange for the government. Also, you may even have the money to buy, but for political and some other considerations, the vendor may just deny you. And I will give you an example. For example, we have the Super Tucano aircraft, which we got from the United States of America. But for some reason, some of the associated equipment that will enhance the effectiveness of our operations using that airplanes have been denied to us by Congress. So those kinds of considerations, even when we have the money, even when you pay, sometimes the things can, can be denied. So that is why it's a very big problem for us. And the only way forward, the only solution we see is for us to really develop capacity so that we begin to win ourselves off this total dependence for our defense needs, on other foreign vendors. Now, the only way to win ourselves, as far as we can see, is also through research and development, reverse engineering, so that we can really begin to produce some of these things. And the fact is that we have a lot of capacity. It's just harnessing it that's our challenge. We have a lot of, there is virtually no field in this country that does not have a government-funded and an established and funded institute that does research into that. So it's harnessing, including the armed forces. We have a lot of research establishments and institutes that, so it's just harnessing all this, and then I think we'll be able to make a lot of breakthrough in terms of, really being self-sufficient. So for us, that is why we're really focusing on research and development. And these efforts have really begun to pay dividends. A lot of products have come out of our R&D activities. As a matter of fact, that's why we also do it annually at the Nigerian Air Force headquarters level, R&D competitions, just to encourage units, formations, and even individuals to engage in research and development. A lot of our efforts, and of course we have the Air Force Research and Development Institute, which was a center. We upgraded to an institute now to harness the human resources capacity for research and development. We're doing very well as far as that is concerned, because we have been able to produce a lot of products. A lot of them have been deployed in operational areas, supporting our aircraft. Some have only military use, some are for dual use. The ones that are for either dual or civilian use have been patented by the National Office for Technology Acquisition and Promotion, NOTAP. I think so far we have about 6 products that have been patented by that body as a result of our R&D. What we are looking for is just mass production and commercialization eventually. So, a lot of progress as far as our R&D efforts are concerned. I think the last time I also spoke about the Tsigumi UAV, which was designed, built, and even test flown purely by Nigerian Air Force engineers and technicians. But of course, no man is an island. There is no country in the world that produces or manufactures aircraft from A to Z completely. So we also had to partner, and that's where our strategic partnership comes in one of my key enablers. We had to partner with a company in Portugal to put the finishing touches, particularly in terms of the avionics, that's communications and the navigation systems of that UAV. Hopefully, we'll see that UAV flying before the end of the year, essentially indigenously produced and operated in Nigeria, of course, with collaboration with this company from Portugal. In terms of armament technology, we also have made a lot of progress. These armaments are also very expensive. We have had to procure them always from abroad, despite all the challenges that I mentioned earlier. We are on the verge of creating our own production of particularly the C5 57mm rockets. We went into partnership with also a company in Serbia to transfer the technology and also to establish a production line in Nigeria for that. Now, the good thing about this is that the technology is the same. So whether it's 57mm or it's 7mm, 9mm, whatever the caliber is of ammunition, once you have the capacity to do one, it's just to transfer the technology and it will be easy to do the other. So we think that this is also a very huge and important milestone for us as far as armament technology is concerned. A few of the welfare activities, of course, we realize or we know that the human being is the most important asset that any organization can have. So you can have all the expensive airplanes, weapon systems, name it. If the human being is not properly motivated to be able to operate that, you are unlikely to succeed. And even with very rudimentary systems, if the human being operating them is adequately motivated, then you are likely to achieve a lot of your aims and objectives. So, of course, that is why we focus a lot also on the welfare of our personnel, to make sure that they're adequately motivated to be able to carry out their jobs most effectively, most efficiently. We have ensured that some of the challenges regarding accommodation, uniforms, and other accoutrements have been significantly addressed. It's a work in progress. Some of the challenges have been there over time, but we are addressing them head on, and we have made a lot of progress. But one other area that I think has had very significant impact in terms of increasing the welfare of our personnel is our establishment of the Microfinance Bank, Nigerian Air Force Microfinance Bank. That is supposed to encourage investments, encourage individuals to save, and also provide very cheap interest loans, not only for the personnel, but also for their families, family members, wives, children, so it's a very good avenue, and personnel are really taking advantage of it, and it's making a lot of positive impact in their lives. So I've also made a lot of investments in terms of our schools, our hospitals, accommodation, and many other barrack infrastructure, electricity, water, roads, office buildings, just to make sure that our personnel do not have any worries and are able to focus on the job at hand, the job that we have asked them to do, and they're able to do it very well. And we're seeing a lot of improvement as far as the welfare and morale of our personnel is concerned. We are also able to establish an insurance policy. In the past, we had an insurance policy only for pilots, that flew our airplanes. But the fact is that every other personnel in the Air Force that is carrying out one job or the other also has risks associated with those jobs. And so we felt everybody should be covered, so that he doesn't have to worry in case there are debilitating injuries or sicknesses arising from the workplace. He has a very robust insurance policy to fall back on, and so therefore that worry is abated, and the individual can focus more on the job at hand. These are just a few of the welfare initiatives that we have implemented amongst so many others. It suffices to say that we pay a lot of attention on the welfare of our personnel through various programs and projects to make sure that they are able to focus on the job at hand and carry it out to the best of their ability. So I would like to stop here for want of time, and then maybe we can have an interactive session before the time that we have is expired. So thank you very much once again. And
may we please appreciate the Chief of Air Staff again for that.
To cross, and we gave some statistics. I'm not sure how accurate those statistics are, but that's not the issue. Obviously, there has been a resurgence, particularly in the northeast, and quite a few people have lost their lives in the past three months or thereabouts. Now, we need to understand a couple of fundamentals. Now, generally, insurgencies take a very long time once they grow, and they take a very long time to solve, despite all the effort. So it's a work in progress. You will recall that sometime in 2023, there was a lot of, and the media carried it all over also, that as far as who were concerned, Maiduguri was, on the Northeast Theater was over, because there was virtually nothing happening. And that was when the Northwest banditry was picking up, and then we concentrated a lot of effort there, because apparently the impression was that the situation in the Northeast had gotten stabilized, got to a very minimum level, but then, of course, we saw that that is not the case. So it keeps, going and coming, and it's a complex environment. So, for example, there is a lot of limitation as to what you can do. I mentioned earlier that you need a lot of intelligence. So for us in the Air Force, we cannot, carry out operations with general purpose munitions, for example, because of the effect and the likelihood of collateral damage and all that. So it's a difficult it's a difficult challenge. We are doing what we can to address it. We also have our challenges, but I can assure you that we are doing everything that we can to make sure that the situation is abated until all nooks and crannies return to peace and prosperity. We're working jointly, and we've also come a long way as far as that is concerned, because this is something that requires a lot of joint effort. Of course, the Air Force alone, neither can the Army or any other single service is able to address the challenge alone. So we're working more closely than ever before with the other security agencies to be able to address this. One very important point that we have not been paying attention to in the past is that, and we have said it in a couple of fora, the fact is that anywhere you have insurgencies, it has been proven empirically through research that up to 70–75% of the solution lies in the non-kinetic approach, and only about 25% of internal security challenges or issues can be solved through kinetic means. So while the armed forces, and this is after studying virtually every spot in the world where insurgencies have taken place and what was done eventually, and so it's empirical, it's research, scientific research that was done, and so that is properly established. So now coming back to us, the military is doing a lot, but empirically it has been proven that we can only achieve 25%, irrespective of whatever effort that we put in. Now, the other aspect has to be done by what we call the whole of government and whole of society approach. And I think that is where we have to put in a lot of effort. Because even when the military goes in and is able to solve the problem, if this whole of society approach, which includes solving the problem from the root cause, not addressing the symptoms, then this problem will still recur, just like it has happened now. Once those other issues that have to do with the whole of government, whole of society approach are not addressed, no matter the success achieved by the military, it's just a matter of time, it's going to, the effect will be lost. And I think that is what we are seeing, particularly in the Northeast. So that aspect has to be very adequately addressed. And that is why even at our own level, like for us in the Air Force, we are doing a lot of effort at our own level. We cannot do it alone, but we are putting a lot of, playing our own part to make sure we have more robust civil-military relations. We're able to bring people close to us and then do a lot of civil-military activities, civil-military relations activities, including quick impact projects, medical outreaches, educational outreaches. Those are some of the things, but we can only do this much. But so every other person has to be involved in that, and that is, I think, the way forward in solving this problem. We have started engaging with a lot of the state governors in a lot of these areas where these things are happening. I think we're beginning to be able to convince them that that is the approach that they must also, or that is the lens through which they must look at the problems, and therefore also play their own part to be able to address it. Now, the second question, to give you an impression of how, or a picture of how costly it is. Okay, you see, I will just give you one example. We have an unmanned aerial system from China that we call the Winglong 2. It carries, it's armed with a bomb and a missile, or two types of, the first question in this series was about, well, it's an advice about media relations as a line of operations. Even in our staff colleges, when you do appreciation, which is a major thing that we do when we're carrying out operations, we used to call it appreciation, now we call it the estimate process. Where you line or you identify all their lines of operations, kinetic, non-kinetic, and all that. So media It's even taught in media line of operations. It's even taught in our, staff colleges, just to, to corroborate your suggestion. It's a very important line of operation, and especially, like I mentioned earlier, because of the kinds of operations that we are doing now, internal security, the adversaries within, the media has an extremely important role to play to really shape the operational environment, that can either, and the availability or lack of it can either make or mar the operational environment. So it's very, very important. We are not joking with it. And that is why, like I said earlier, we have established or we have upgraded our civil military relations directorate up to a branch status, and the media operations fall under that. We are making it more robust, and doing whatever we can to make sure that the media line of operations. You remember I thanked you at the beginning for really playing that role very well as far as shaping the environment. A lot can be done, a lot more can be done, but I think so far we're not doing badly. But the only room that is never full is that of improvement. So I think both on our side and maybe both on the side of the media, we can always do better. But thank you very much. I think it's well noted and it's very true. Now, you talked about synergy and the fact of, well, if you look at in terms of synergy and jointness, I think we have made a lot of progress looking at where we are coming from and what we have today. I think we are much more integrated, we are much more joint in terms of our operations. But it's also something that is a work in progress. We still have a long way to go to achieve that seamless synergy and interoperability. And that is why we took the bulls by the horn by establishing this air-ground integration school. That is one of the schools that I said was going to fall under the Air Power Center of Excellence. And we train officers and men from the Army and other sister services. The whole idea is for them to be trained and then to be injected into the theaters. And they are the ones that will really help a lot in this synergy. We have challenges as far as individual operations or activities are concerned, like the one of Marty. Some of the challenges or some of the issues are not things that we can discuss before the cameras. But it suffices to say that I think we are making a lot of improvements as far as the synergy and cooperation is concerned. And every day, with every event, we learn more. We make sure that that kind of weakness or lapse does not happen again. So it's a work in progress, and I think there is a lot of improvement as far as the synergy is concerned. Particularly, and a lot of initiatives also to alleviate some of those challenges, both in theater and outside the theater. I will just leave it at that. But we are aware of the challenges and we are working around the clock to address them. Now, okay, the India-Pakistan issue. Okay, well, a lot of things going on there, but it's just a fact. The operational environment is constantly dynamic. Things change, technology, and that's why for us, this fleet renewal is very, very important for us, because we are using legacy systems that could not really do much, even for internal security operations. And of course, we can see the adversary is also getting more sophisticated. They are able to modify over-the-counter drones to make them able to fight. So the operational environment is always dynamic. You have to be ahead of it all the time. The ecosystem is very, very important. If you just buy an airplane, and this is what makes it even more expensive. So for example now, just to go back to the example of the Long 2 I gave you, for the Long 2 to operate, you need to have satellite subscription, for example. All that is part of the ecosystem. You need to have a downlink so that whatever the camera is seeing, maybe you in the operations control center, you are seeing, and you can take a decision. So all that is part of the ecosystem, but it requires a lot of investment and a lot of expenditure. Yeah, where despite the NIGECOM SAT, we are not able to provide effective SATCOM coverage for some of these activities. So we have to procure satellite. It's in millions of dollars for our activities. But all that is, so just to give you a clearer picture about the cost, so all this is part of the ecosystem. And a lot of other things are coming to play, which you must, bring together for you to really be effective. Now, regarding the adversary being able to use unmanned aerial systems to carry out attacks, the only or the best check for that is also to have a very robust counter unmanned aerial system. We have some of it in some of our operational bases, and we're able to see from a distance if any drone or the likes is coming towards our location. So I think that's what we need to emphasize more on, so that all our locations have that kind of system. But to have a bigger picture, some of us may be aware of what we call the Total Radar Coverage of Nigeria project, which had a civilian and a military component. Now, the civilian component was established, and that's why we have radar coverage virtually all across the nation, operating from the 4 international airports that are, Port Harcourt, Kano, Lagos, and Abuja. And then you're able to have radar coverage. Once you are flying, the radar covers you all, but that's the civilian aspect of it. Now, I think we did that maybe 14, 15 years ago, but up till now, the military component has not, taken place. We have been pushing for it, because with that, because it's 3 layers. You have low-level air defense, the mid-range, and then the high level, which is very far, and very high. So the low level, which is a component of the military total radar coverage, you will have been able to see any of those things coming in, because we have air defense operation centers, and they're able to see and coordinate and engage, But we don't have that system. So that's a holistic system that will address these challenges, not only from, in any particular theater, but any foreign thing in the whole of Nigerian airspace, both at the low level, medium level, and the high level. Any object flying that is not authorized, you'll be able to see it, and you will challenge it and even engage it, But we don't have that system in place. So we are pushing for it. Hopefully, it will be implemented one day. That will give us that protection. But for now, the best way is to buy the smaller systems to protect your immediate environment. And we have been discussing with the Army. They have been able to put some of those systems in some of their locations. So I believe where those systems are available, it will be difficult for those kinds of drones to come into maybe places where they are not available. But that will be the best way forward. It's very difficult for the Air Force to fly over every location, through our ISR. I think you mentioned about ISR, to provide ISR 24/7. The areas are vast. The logistics of doing that is very high, and also that will be tantamount to dissipation of air efforts. That's why you need a lot of intelligence. So if you have intelligence that this is going to happen or around this, then you go. But if you don't have any intelligence, you can't just send your assets up and it's just flying and you are not seeing it with no aim. That will be the second way of doing it, to have a permanent presence and looking. But it's too expensive. It's not logical to be able to do that, So, but that's another option that, you can do to prevent that kind of thing happening. But it's not logical. So TRACON, and then maybe decentralized unmanned aerial systems, counter unmanned aerial systems establishments, that will solve the problem. You talked about also artificial intelligence, and cyber warfare or cyber security. Just yesterday also, because all these are evolving, and we coming from, our legacy systems and also moving into these challenges, we are doing everything that we can. Just yesterday, we had a colloquium with the Bradford University Center for artificial intelligence, and then thereafter we signed a memorandum of understanding for them to develop our capacity in terms of manpower and research in AI, So we're addressing all this according to resources that are available and according to what we can do, as a service and as a system. But definitely, I told you that we also established a directorate of cyber warfare, so all to address that also. And we have now established this memorandum of understanding for training of our personnel in artificial intelligence.
For want of time, the Chief of Staff here.
Remunerations, because there is a lot of non-procedural exit from, the services. Well, two sides of it. Before I became the Chief of the Air Staff, I was Chief of Standards and Evaluation. And part of my duty was to examine this non-procedural exit because it was becoming a bit high as at that time for the Air Force. We have reversed the trend now. It's much better than the trend we had before. But during our research and investigation, what we found out was that it's not so much the remuneration that was making people exit the service, at least for the Air Force, non-procedurally. It was more of the what I call the non-tangible aspects of morale. So it's not about the money, but it's about what the individual perceives of the system, how the people in the system treat that individual, how he's mentored, how he's carried along, how he's trained, and all that. So we realized that there was a lot of gap in that. In the past, and I'll just give you this example. When we were growing up as young officers, if you went to the officers' mess as a young officer, once you have anybody that is superior to you, you won't spend anything. That individual pays for everything, that you took in the mess, whether it's drinks or food or whatever entertainment that you did. It was a shame, sort of, for your superior not to be able to pay for whatever you took in the mess. So that's the kind of togetherness, that's the kind of esprit de corps or camaraderie that existed at that time. So we found that over time, that level of camaraderie had ebbed. And the tendency was people were thinking me, myself, and I, and so we had to reverse that trend. We did a lot of teaching reorientation to make sure that these ethics and traditions really came back to the system. And from our research, honestly, those are the kinds of factors that made a lot of people leave. And the corollary was that if an individual came to a unit and he was properly received, he's properly accommodated, and individuals were, took him as a family member and treated him as such, even without much more financial remuneration, that individual would not want to leave that environment, and we're able to prove it. But if he came to an environment, even with a lot of financial whatever improvement, but that mental, those non-tangible aspects of morale are not in place, that individual is very likely to want to leave that environment. That was the conclusion of that research. So there is that aspect, that has to be, and I think it's general. It's not only in the Air Force. The Air Force is just a microcosm of the society, and it's a reflection of it. So I think it's happening. It's something that is everywhere. We need to be more of our brothers keepers and all that. So that's that aspect of it. But as far as the remunerations are concerned also, I think, of course, that is beyond what the Air Force can do as a service. Is something, like I said, the only room that is never full is that of improvement. So our wants are infinite, but our resources are usually finite. So no matter how much is given, you will appreciate it, you'll accept it, and it will be good. But that may not necessarily be what is causing this non-procedural exit. So I don't know if I've answered your question adequately. Okay, manpower, recruitment. We have approval to beef up the manpower across the services. But you see, recruitment comes with a lot of issues. It's not just about going to recruit individuals and bring them into the service. You have to think of how you are going to train them, how you are going to accommodate them, how you are going to equip them, and so many other issues, how you are going to administer, terms and conditions of the service on them. So recruitment is the simplest thing for you to do, but all the other things that have to be done to ensure that that recruitment makes sense are the challenges, and they require a lot of resources, a lot of not only even resources in terms of money, but a lot of thinking and a lot of analysis to be able to do it correctly. So while we are trying to beef up, we don't want to bring people into the system that will end up being a problem. People that will not be properly trained, or they don't have the right attitude, or they don't have the a bunch of so many other qualities. So yes, while we are trying to beef up, but it's something that needs to be done very carefully, so that you have the right set of people, and so that you can achieve the right kind of effect that you want after. It requires time, and it requires a lot of resources, not something that you do too fast, because you probably end up with a lot of problems in your hands. Why did I join the Nigerian Air Force? Well, you will agree with me that the Air Force among the armed forces is the most elitist. It has the most educated people, has the most cultured people. Well, we can have that debate maybe another day, but that's the fact. Has the smartest people around, Yes, in the whole armed forces of Nigeria, as an example, we have the highest number of officers with PhD. We have even professors that are in uniform. Nobody has it, and down the line, it's like that. Everybody has an academic degree in the Air Force as an officer, and of course, even the airmen. Everything we do in the Air Force is specialist. There is no general duty, which you can find in the Army. So it's quite elitist, and that is what is attractive about it. We see for the Air Force, the sky is the starting point, it's not the limit. Yes, while it's the limit for every other person, for us it's the starting point. So you can imagine the difference. While we are shaking hands with the angels, yeah, down there doing yes, so it's very easy to see why I chose to join the Air Force and not the Army. So thank you very much.
John Chester, just give. John, just give just 1 minute.